Hey guys, thanks for joining me for this 60-second episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests on this episode include Dianne Grossman. Her daughter's tragic story is depicted in the documentary Mallory. We'll also visit with actor and host George Sear. Got a new movie, Reefa, which is available on demand tomorrow. Legendary Dionne Warwick will be visiting about her Mother's Day livestream celebration that's hosted by the Mandolin Platform. Tickets are available now. We'll also visit with former Tonight Show band leader Doc Severinsen about the documentary PBS American Masters, Never Too Late, the Doc Severinsen story, which is available now. And we'll wrap up the show with best-selling author Jeffrey S. Stevens. Got a brand new book to talk about, Fool's Errand. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, comment, leave some feedback, check out the shop, and of course share with your friends. Well guys, thought we would start off by taking a look at some good news stories that are making the rounds. Got 4 of them to share with you, as a restaurant in Philadelphia called South Philly Barbacoa has been feeding people and keeping people working during the pandemic. Now early on, the owners converted another restaurant they own into a service called the People's Kitchen that keeps chefs paid. And a year later, they're still handing out up to 300 free meals a day. Hats off. Number 2. 6 years ago this week, the CEO of a company, Gravity Payments, announced he was signing his own salary and paying all of his 130 employees at least $70,000 a year, which a lot of people thought was nuts. But he posted an update the other day. He's added 70 more workers since then, and revenue had tripled. Number 3 story. Right before the pandemic hit, a mom in Scotland decided to lose weight by not ordering takeout or delivery anymore. Which hasn't been easy during the pandemic, but she stuck with it, and in 15 months, she dropped 84 pounds. And for over a decade, a 74-year-old woman in Louisiana named Jessie Hamilton worked as a cook for the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity at LSU. Now, her last year was 1996, but some of the frat guys keep in touch with her, and they recently found out she was still working 2 jobs to pay off her mortgage. So 91 of them pooled their money, and for her birthday this month, they surprised her with $52,000. Around 45 grand of it will cover her mortgage. The rest is pocket change. Dianne Grossman, she's a speaker, she's a business owner, a mentor, and we're going to talk this morning about the film, Mallory, which is available on demand. And first off, Dianne, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
And Dianne, a lot of times when we talk about movies that are available, we talk about exciting movies, action movies, comedies, but this is a documentary close to the heart that has a lesson that we all need to learn. And tell our listeners a little bit about when the film project itself started, Dianne.
So the film is a representation of my family's life. We lost our daughter to suicide, directly related to bullying and cyberbullying. And I quickly knew shortly after Mallory passed away, there was so much going on around the case and conversation and news stories that we wanted to capture everything that was going on. So I reached out to Ash Patino, which is a personal friend of ours, and said, listen, I've got this idea. I knew that there was a film there. I just didn't know what it was going to be and how it was going to shape. For me, it was really important that the film obviously showcased Mallory and told the story about what happened to her and how it happened to her. But more importantly, we wanted a story of resilience. We wanted to create a film that parents could sit down, that would open up incredible conversation between them and their children to talk about the dangers of teen suicide, what's going on with bullying and cyberbullying, how they can educate themselves, but also leave with a mission of hope and resilience and how they can be a part of something that's so much greater than themselves.
And Dianne, with social media, it's different than when we were kids. I mean, we've all endured bullying, but what is maybe the misconception folks have about the cyberbullying and the effect that has on the new generation of kids?
Well, I think that children have elevated the language of hate. So we used to say, you mentioned we used to, be bullied and things, and it was, very leave it to Beaver, go jump in the lake,
right.
or golly gee Wally, get out of my face. But children don't say that anymore. Children have elevated the language of hate, and now they're saying you should go kill yourself. And I think that we need to look at the DNA of the language and look at what that really says to the victim. When you say to someone, go kill yourself, you're telling them that they're not relevant. You're telling them that they're no longer needed. Whereas when you tell someone to get out of your face, you're telling them to leave you alone. And I think that that's really important. Children will say things online that they would never say to someone's face. I also think that when you've got 2 or 3 people that bully you at school, online, you have 2 or 3 bullying you at school, but you also have their 900 followers online. And when children post something and the other 900 followers like it or heart it or share it or give it a laugh, what happens to that, to the victim, is it becomes this gang-like behavior. And I think it's really important for us to understand that bullying has elevated, it's changed, and it's no longer. The other thing I would say is just because we were bullied as children doesn't mean it was right. I think bullying at any stage, at any age, is not a good thing, right? No one becomes a better person because they were teased or humiliated or embarrassed because of that. So I think it's important that we decide that we no longer want to be a society of bullying, and we definitely don't want it to take place online.
That's right. And if the schools don't get involved, Dianne, what are some of the things that us as parents, like I said, I'm a teenager as well. What are things that parents can do if the proper authorities, if you will, aren't doing their job?
Well, the first thing we have to understand is it's not against the law to be a jerk to someone.
Right.
Really important that we understand, because a lot of times parents do want to go to law enforcement and say, I need you to make this stop. I think that school systems have to realize that it is their problem, that unfortunately that because we have now commingled technology at home, learning, all of that, this is a community problem. It's not a school problem. It's not a parent's problem. It's a community problem. And when we come together as a community, the first thing we have to do is children need to be able to predict the consequences of their behavior. So when they know they do A and B happens to them, then they are able to, children like boundaries. We need to be afraid to stop. We need to stop being afraid of disciplining our children and letting their feelings get hurt, letting them understand that you broke rules, but this is the consequences of those rules, and this is how we get better. So instead of putting the blame on the schools or this blame on the parents, we need to come together as a group and understand that the PTA is no longer designed for muffins for mom. It's really about creating an environment where our school systems can thrive and our parents can understand the dangers of what's going on in the school system and out of the school.
Now, Dianne, was there a time during the process of making the film that there was maybe an aha moment that just kind of reassured you of the work that you were doing?
The kids. When the kids look at me and say, Miss Grossman, I'm like Mallory. When a kid can say to me, I'm like Mallory, and I know exactly what they're saying, when they say that their heart hurts or they feel like hurting themselves or that they've sat in their room and wrote goodbye letters to their moms, and they say that to me only after an hour of speaking to them, that's when you know that you've reached them. And it's not one and done. This has got to be, it takes 6 months to break a bad habit. We have got to continuously send the message to our kids that this is just not okay, that your cell phone is not your lifeline. Your community, your family, your friends, those are your lifelines. We have to understand that it's okay to hurt. It's okay to be sad. And we also have to spend time and money on social and emotional learning. Hurt people hurt. And if we could look at the bullies and recognize why they're hurting, then we can heal the victims. So it's really about, for me, it's all about the kids.
And again, the film Mallory, available on demand now. And Dianne, I want to make sure and let folks know where to find more information about the film and everything you've got going social media wise as well.
Thank you. Everybody can follow me on Facebook. It's called Mallory's Army is our organization. And the website is mallorysarmy.org. There are links to the film on the website, as well as all of our information and great resources for parents. If they are experiencing bullying and they don't know what to do, we have a great website there for them to find the resources in their state.
Well, Dianne, it has been a privilege to visit with you this morning. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and hope you have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we can catch up again.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it turns out that getting woken up by a horrible buzzing noise isn't the best way to kick off a great day. I mean, who would have guessed, right? Well, according to a new study out of Australia, the best way to wake up more alert and less groggy is waking up to a song you like. And it should be an upbeat song. So even if your favorite hot jam is Johnny Cash singing Hurt, probably not going to work. Now, in the study, people had to play a video game involving fast reflexes right after they woke up, and the people who woke up to music did better than people who woke up to a classic alarm. Got a new movie that is available on video on demand so many ways. We'll talk about that as well. You might remember him from Love, Victor as well. We've got actor and, presenter as well, George Sear on the line with us. George, first off, thanks so much for taking the time, brother.
Yeah, of course. It's good to talk to you.
Now, we talked about a new movie out on demand coming up tomorrow, the film Reefa. And if, George, if folks haven't seen the trailers or the previews, let our listeners know a little bit about the backstory of the film.
Yeah, so Reefa follows Israel Reefa Hernandez, who is 18 years old, and it's kind of based around his last summer in Miami before he's due to be moving to New York on an art scholarship. Israel was a really gifted artist. And in the summer, he's surrounded by his friends. He has this great romance. And his family, meanwhile, they're all waiting for their green cards. They've all moved from Colombia seeking asylum in the U.S. And tragically, what happens is he right at the end of the summer, he paints a piece on an abandoned McDonald's, and then he's chased down by the cops and tasered to death. So this is kind of like, this story is like, it took our director Jeff 5 years to get this made, but this is Israel Reefa Hernandez. This is his story and his family out there.
And George, for you to be involved in a story, I know art and music and all that stuff is huge for you as well. And also to maybe make a point as well with your artistry and being involved with Reefa as well. How cool is that for you?
Yeah, it was really, really great. I mean, like anything, the script came through, read it, and I thought, this is, I couldn't believe it was a real story. And I was glad his story was being told. And it always means a little bit more, I think, when you're involved with a project that sort of means something or is saying something. That aspect was really, it was, as an actor, I'm always privileged to be able to do that.
This last year, to have a movie out and available in the midst of all that we've all lived through this last year, George, what does that mean to you for that movie, like I said, that speaks a message and speaks to the hearts of people that are hurting right now?
Yeah. No, it means a lot. I mean, I definitely don't take it for granted. I mean, when we filmed the movie, it wasn't pandemic time. We had no idea, like the rest of the world, that what was going to happen. But when our film was first due to come out at the Miami Film Festival, it's literally right when the pandemic hit. It was like the first week. So I'd flown back into Miami for it, really excited to see the movie. Everybody was there. And then, literally the morning it was supposed to be shown, film festival got cancelled because of it. So I'm really grateful that it's got the chance to come out and people are going to be able to watch it.
And I noticed, I was reading about you, and in your off time, you like to do workout, fitness kind of stuff. You must be the most buff person. You've had nothing but time this last year.
Yeah, it's true, but it gets old very quickly. You have to find a few other things after a while.
Now, George, what was maybe the biggest thing that you learned about yourself in all of the downtime and alone time? Was there anything that you really kind of honed in on this last year?
I think it did give me a lot of time for a lot of self-reflection, and I think it allowed me to hone some other things like music. I got to play a lot of music. My friends. I was living with roommates at the time, but I moved out to my own spot now. So that it was kind of nice having other musicians around. Things that I learned. I think I learned not to take just like the small everyday things for granted. Like being able to go out just for coffee and things like that. You don't realize how much that actually kind of boosts your mental health, you know. What about you? What was it like for you?
Remote broadcasting.
Okay, so kind of adapting then to like the new normal.
Now, for you, George, as 2021, we're already a quarter of the way through. How different does the landscape or maybe the goal setting look for you this year?
Yeah, it does look a little different. I mean, I'm really grateful that we got to film the second season of Love Victor during the pandemic. You know, like we had a great health and safety team and a lot of people around us making sure it was safe to film, and we got through it and we filmed the whole season. So that comes out in June 11. So it's exciting knowing that there's something coming up this year. You know, as an actor, you're always kind of looking for the next thing. And I think I've also kind of set my sights a little bit more on my kind of the creative stuff. So I've been writing more and, you know, writing a short and hoping to get that made. So yeah, just kind of wanting to do things for my own like creative fulfillment as well, you know.
Now on the writing side for you, has the writing been harder to find bright spots, or have you noticed that it's a little darker than it had been before?
Yeah, probably. I think it is a little darker, a little more shaded by what's going on.
Well, again, the new movie Reefa is available on all the digitals coming up tomorrow. And George, I want to make sure if folks want more information, not only about the film, but everything you've got going on social media wise, where's the best place?
Yeah, you can check me out on Instagram at Sear is my handle. That's kind of the main thing that I go to use.
All right. Well, again, George, Sear, it's been great to visit with you. Looking forward to checking out the documentary myself tomorrow, and hope you have a great weekend, brother.
Thanks, Cameron. You too.
Well, a good night's sleep has been hard to come by for a lot of people over the past year. And now Netflix, which probably shares some of the blame, is coming to the rescue. Now they're teaming up with the meditation app Headspace for an animated series called Headspace Guide to Sleep. It'll explore, quote, the science behind a healthy night's sleep and provide tips on how to get the best sleep you've ever had. Each 15-minute episode explores a new topic like insomnia, stress, whether looking at your phone in bed is really that bad, and sleeping pills. And they end with a guided wind down designed to help you on your journey to better sleep. It will be released in 2 weeks. Now, meanwhile, Headspace's rival app Calm teamed up with HBO Max for a show called A World of Calm. It's always great when you get to visit with the legends, especially the friendly legends that we've had the chance to visit with. And Dionne Warwick on the line with us. And Dionne, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Don. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Dionne, you've had to learn things a little different over the last year, kind of like we all have. And I know the social media, you've been staying active with that, now doing live streaming, got a big concert coming up on May 9th. And Dionne, how much have you had to shift your emphasis on the way you reach out to the fans these days?
It's been quite different, let me tell you. It's been not only by fans, but the people generally reaching out to them. You know, we've all been kind of stymied by this pandemic, and I have to learn to cope with it as I have. I must say, though, it's been almost like a vacation that I never had for me, as much as I'm on the road. You know, so I'm enjoying sleeping in my own bed and walking up to my own kitchen and fixing my own food the way I want to be served it, you know, all kinds of, and so I've kind of turned it into a positive instead of a negative.
And Dionne, I think we've also noticed, especially in the midst of everybody's emotions, that how much music really means to folks. And you've been able to share that over this year, and like I said, in different ways, and did the live stream back on April 4th. And what was that like doing the live stream for you, Dionne?
It was quite different, I must say. It's the first time I ever even thought about doing anything like that. Not being able to look into somebody's face and see the smile or hear them sing along with me, which I'm hoping that they were doing in any event and will continue to do with me when we did the Mother's Day show for them. I feel that being able to bring a little sunshine and smiles to people's faces, because that's what music does. I feel privileged to be able to do it.
And you talked about the May 9th event, and it's on the live streaming platform Mandolin. And Dionne, if folks want to pick up their tickets on that, is the Mandolin website the best place to pick those up?
Absolutely. Just Google my name and go to Mandolin, and there I'll be.
Now, Dionne, what has music meant to you over the last year? I mean, are there any particular genres that have really been helping you cope as we've gone through this last year?
You know, I'm very eclectic when it comes to my music, listening to music. I listen basically to my peers. My go-to music to get me really up and ready for it is Brazilian music. It's a happy music. You know, I feel that they're singing about things that mean an awful lot to them from the heart, as does music that our country compatriots do. You know, all those genres that people have put us in, they call boxes. I feel very fortunate that they haven't been able to do that with me, because I kind of leave it up to the listening ear to decide how they want to perceive what I'm singing to them.
And Dionne, you have been able to pass over generations, and with the Twitter, social media, and all that stuff blowing up as well. I mean, you found a newfound fame as well. And what's that like, Dionne?
I still find that my Twitter, being called the queen of Twitter, which is quite amusing to me. But I'm feeling it's a wonderful venue to be able to meet new people, to converse with them, to answer questions, to ask questions, and be received as I have been. You know, it's been wonderful to be able to put a smile on people's faces, even without singing to them, but through my words and through my thoughts.
And Dionne, after as long of a career as you've had, to see social media come up and give you another opportunity to connect with fans, has that maybe ignited a fire for the fans that maybe had gone away a little bit before?
Absolutely, and to gain some new ones. You know, I must say that I was quite surprised that it has to how many of the babies, as I call them, know who I am and recognize the songs that I sing. And it's been wonderful making new friends. You know, I have had the opportunity to meet with people like Chance the Rapper, for instance, who we've become very dear friends, as a matter of fact. And I've spoken to him several times by phone. We've decided to record together. He is now in the studio, as a matter of fact, as we speak, putting his voice on one of the songs that we decided to do together. So this sometime late summer, hopefully, you'll be hearing Chance the Rapper and Dionne the singer.
And Dionne, for you to be able to touch new generations, and then also, like you talked, Chance the Rapper, I mean, already well established, but to be able to have an impact and a collaboration with the new artist, I mean, what's that mean to you on a personal level? It's
wonderful. You know, I think the exposure of the music that I've been singing for close to 60 years now happens to resonate with them, which is wonderful. They're hearing beautiful, positive words that they can now incorporate within their own genres of music, and get a feeling that there's a positive side to everything. And music, I'm thinking they're learning that how that puts a smile on people's faces. Mm-hmm. You know, for a long period of time, I found that Twitter was on the negative side, and things that were coming out of these babies' minds and mouths and fingers was not too appealing. And I'm hoping, and it appears that I've been kind of able to turn those things around and giving them food for thought that there's another way to say these things and continue to smile, because I think they all find that I'm more of a comedian than a singer.
That's awesome. Now, again, the upcoming show on May 9th is available on the live streaming platform Mandolin. And Dionne, I also not only want to make sure folks know how to get tickets for the show, but also, well, you're blowing up on socials. I want to make sure they can follow you there as well.
Oh, absolutely. They all know that already.
Again, the boxoffice.mandolin.com/pages/Dionne Warwick. You can also, like she said, you can Google that as well. And Dionne, it is always great to visit with you, my friend. I hope you have a great rest of the week and looking forward to the Mother's Day show.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. And I intend to have a wonderful week. You know, I am now vaccinated, which I really was very, very leery about doing, but I did it. And I think that's something that everybody should consider doing to stay not only safe for themselves, but also for those around them.
Is there someone you work with that you totally hate? Well, if it's a long-standing feud, you might just want to avoid them and keep your head down. Or if they're really harassing you, you might need to go to your boss. But if you think it's a working relationship that's fixable, here are 4 steps for handling it yourself. Number 1, start with empathy. Be open to the idea that you might be part of the problem. But even if it really is all their fault, think about what's causing it. Now, we've all had a stressful year, and things might be going on behind the scenes that you don't know about. Number 2, decide if you should confront them directly. Now, some people respond well to it, and some don't. So before you try to fix anything, figure out how direct you want to be. Number 3, look for things you have in common. Anything, I mean, even if it's just a show you both like. Or try to include them in something like drinks after work. Now, sometimes extending an olive branch can turn things around real fast. Number 4, if it is a hopeless situation, make friends with everyone else. It's a lot harder for them to make your life difficult if everyone else at work likes you. The documentary on PBS American Masters, Never Too Late, the Doc Severinsen story. And for you, Doc, what was it like whenever this opportunity presented itself, and what was your initial thought when it was brought to you?
I thought, are you kidding me? No, and I tried to talk him out of it, and the answer was no. Let's get on with doing some filming right now. And we were sitting right where I'm sitting now in my kitchen. And boy, out came the heavy artillery. And for close to a couple of years, I had a whole other family. Mr. Eubanks, who was Kevin Eubanks. Have I got that right? Yeah, who was the creator and producer of Friends, and my daughter and he were friends when they were kids growing up in the business in California, and it was one of those things that when they asked me about doing it, I said, "Now you got to be kidding me! You don't want me?" And they said, "Well, we kind of know what we want, and we want you to do this." And I thought about it, and I said, if I don't like it, I can always leave.
Right.
And fortunately, that day didn't come. Where am I? I'm in Tennessee. That's where. I'm looking up. I made a horrible mistake. Kevin, the guy who pulled me out to do all of this stuff, was the creator of the show Friends, and his last name is Bright, Kevin Bright.
There you go. There you go.
Well, when you get a 93-year-old man excited, he'll never know what's coming out of his mouth.
Now, Doc, was whenever you were presented the opportunity of On the Tonight Show, I mean, did you have any idea the way it was going to change things for you, and the way the band leader itself on entertainment shows was going to evolve as well?
No, I was just one of the busiest trumpet players in New York City. I had a lot of things that he did, record dates and TV shows and that. And I thought, wow, I don't know, this is going to be kind of weird doing the same thing every day. And Skitch Henderson was the band leader at that time. And I told him, I said, well, Skitch, I got a lot of things, other things I want to do. And he used my real name on me. He said, now, Carl, you listen to me. You're going to come and do the Tonight Show, and you will never be sorry. And boy, was he ever right. And it was never a time that I forgot that for a second.
Now, for you, where did the inspiration for trumpet and music come originally in your life? Well,
my hometown was Arlington, Oregon, population during the boom of 601. And my dad was the town dentist. He'd just gotten out of dental school a few years before that, and he had a practice there in Arlington, and I thought it was the most wonderful place in the world, and why would anybody ever want to live in something called New York or Los Angeles when I found out those places actually existed? And all the people in Arlington were the same way. We thought we had the best of everything, the best schools, the best basketball team, and, it was rodeo country. That's what it was.
Right.
And I got two parts to me, the top part and the bottom part. From the waist up, I dress like a normal person. From the waist down, I dress like a cowboy.
That's awesome. Now, the American Masters Never Too Late, the Doc Severinsen story. Doc, if folks want to find more information, I know it premiered back on the 2nd. It is still available today as well, right?
I think so, yes. There's a lot more gristle to it than it sounds when you say, what is the program, It got pretty tough a couple of times there. And when I saw it, I thought, okay, yeah, I was there. I know all about it. But yeah, I'll come watch it. I went to watch it the first time and the only time. And I suddenly realized that I was sobbing uncontrollably. And it really, they didn't ask all nice questions, and Kevin is extremely insightful, and he's gone on to become, well, I'd say about maybe my closest friend.
Well, again, the PBS American Masters Never Too Late, the Doc Severinsen story. Be sure and check it out. And Doc, it has truly been a privilege to have the chance to visit with you. I wish you a great rest of your week, and hopefully we can catch up again.
Well, yeah, and go over and open up your door, or your window, raise it high, and stick your head out and yell out, "Hey, Doc Severinsen says hi to all his friends out there." My daughter and her husband lived there for years. They had a ranch just south of Oklahoma City, actually just south of Norman. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, it was a beautiful place. I loved it. I could have killed them when they sold them. Not really.
Well, Doc, again, thank you for your time, sir.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Well, in case you haven't heard, last week the Pentagon confirmed that a leaked UFO video that surfaced online was real Navy footage, and they can't explain it. So does that mean we're going to make an alien contact soon? Well, the online betting sites sure think so. The odds of alien contact this year dropped from 200 to 1 before the Pentagon announcement to 20 to 1, and the odds of contact this month dropped from 500 to 1 to 50 to 1. So I guess we should all just hope they come in peace. Our next guest is political analyst, best-selling author, columnist. Got a new book we're going to talk about, Fool's Errand, with author and all those other things I just mentioned, Jeffrey S. Stevens. And first off, Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me, Cameron. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, Jeffrey, talk about the new book, Fool's Errand. We'll start with that, and who knows where we'll go from there. But
okay.
The Fool's Errand, like the thing says, puts a patriotic heart into a mafia thriller tale. I mean, how do you pull that off?
Yeah, well, normally I'm really known for writing a series of spy thrillers featuring a CIA agent by the name of Jordan Sandor. But with the pandemic, I really thought, not that I don't love those books, and I have another one that's almost done, but I wanted to write something that was a little closer to home because we're spending so much time with family and because family is so important, and sometimes we don't even get to see our parents or our grandparents and what have you. So I came up with this idea about a story about a young man whose dad had died 6 years earlier, and he had been in the service and he had done different things, and he was one of these guys always looking for the brass ring, but never happened. And he dies young, and 6 years after he dies, the son finds these box of papers, and in it is a letter that the father wrote to him just before he died. And it talks about this sort of hidden treasure, and it's typical of his dad and was probably far-fetched and all the rest of it. But this young man has to figure out, do I go looking for this thing and fulfill my father's destiny, or do I put the letter back in the envelope? And since the name of the book is Fool's Errand, we know what he does. And so it becomes an international treasure hunt. There's romance, there's intrigue, there's danger, there's some mafia characters trying to get in his way and find out where the money is. But there's also the story of this young man confronting his relationship with his dad and really turning out to be the man that maybe his father wanted him to be and all of that. So it's I don't want to say heartwarming, that's kind of a corny thing to say, but it is a family saga, but it's also a treasure hunt, and it's a page-turner, so it's a lot of fun. So I enjoyed writing it, and I'm getting a great reaction to it, which I'm very grateful for.
Now, Jeffrey, whenever you start out with an idea, I mean, how deep is the concept before you actually start putting, well, I'm not sure that it's even pen to paper anymore, is it?
Yeah, well, sometimes. I mean, I use a pen and paper, and then I go to the computer. But it was interesting on this one, Cameron, because you remember those conversations you used to have where you would say, like, God, if I could just spend one more day with someone, just one day, who would it be? And some of us would say Jesus Christ, and some of us might say, JFK, or I don't know, whoever. But a lot of people say, boy, I wish I could spend one more day with my mom or one more day with my dad. And that's what got me to thinking, and I thought, gee, wouldn't it be kind of neat if this young man gets this letter, and so it's sort of his father speaking to him from the great beyond 6 years later, and that's what spun the idea off. And then I thought, well, that's a pretty clever idea, but you need to build a book around it. You can't just make it a short story. And so that's when I came up with the idea that the letter would talk about this treasure, and that he would have to make choices about trying to find out where it is. So he travels around the country, and he winds up in the south of France, and it's got to do with World War II. And so it's a fun little journey, and I hope people enjoy it.
Now, Jeffrey, you talked about also having another work that's almost in its final stages. Do you work on separate projects at the same time, or do you have to totally compartmentalize each book as you're writing?
I'm pretty much in the keeping it separate thing, Cameron. When I wrote Fool's Errand, I was great guns to get that thing done, and then I went back and went back to Jordan Sandor and my spy stuff. So it's hard for me. I could read different books. I mean, I could read a novel and a nonfiction book at the same time, which I tend to do. You switch back and forth. But when it comes to writing, you kind of have to inhabit the story. I don't want that to sound like some literary pretension, but you really have to keep your eye on the ball because you're dealing with these characters and with these events. And then if you go in a completely different direction, a different story, I don't think it does justice either one. So I try and stay with one thing. Now, as you and I talked about before we went on the air, I also do some political commentary because I am concerned about this great country of ours and what's going on, and it's very disturbing to me. So I had written some columns a few years ago. Trump got elected. I felt pretty good about things. I mean, I know the country's divided, but I thought things might come together. But now, man, I tell you, it's a mess. And so I just have to have my voice heard out there, too. So I've been writing some stuff about that.
And speaking about that, I know that you had, is there light at the end of the coronavirus tunnel? I mean, everybody's looking for the light, aren't they?
Yeah. So here's the thing about that. The reason I wrote that particular column was I really got angry over the fact that no one seems to be giving Donald Trump any credit for what went on here. And I got to say, I know a lot of people don't like the guy. I get that. That's not how I feel. But okay, I respect that other people feel that way. But when he took the reins and said, we're going to create Operation Warp Speed, I know he's not a scientist, and the real credit goes to all those wonderful medical professionals, doctors, researchers, but he cut through that red tape and he said, we are not going to get slowed down by our bureaucracy. We're going to get these vaccines out. And as the election approached, the mainstream media did everything they could to put their thumb down on the whole concept. And, oh, my God, remember, our now vice president said, I would never take that vaccine that Donald Trump created and all the rest of it. Meanwhile, she was the first person online. But the idea is that now that things are really coming together and people are getting vaccinated, I just had to say that I don't care if you're a conservative or a liberal, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're white, if you're black, if you're red, if you're yellow, if you're purple. If you took those vaccines, you may well owe some part of your life to Donald Trump. And I just want somebody to say that because he deserves that recognition, and people need to realize that they're being bamboozled right now by a guy who came into the office and said, I'm the great uniter, and he's done everything he can to throw fuel on this fire that's splitting this country apart. And I'm really unhappy about it.
Now, do you draw inspiration for your future writings from current events, or is it kind of totally separate for you and your writing style?
Well, let me say, Fool's Errand, it was a more personal sort of a novel, and I really do hope people read it and love it. And I can't tell you how many people who have read it get in touch with me and said, as soon as I finished that novel, the first thing I did was I called up my mom, or I called up my dad, or I gave my grandparents a hug, that kind of thing. And that really makes me feel good. In terms of current events, when I write about Jordan Sandor, I try and do that. I try and draw, I don't want to say ripped from the headlines, I hate that expression, but you know what I mean, where you recognize that there are things going on here in the world that we have to figure out. I mean, the vacuum of leadership in this country, I don't know if you agree with me, but in my lifetime, there are a couple of presidents that really made me feel great about being an American. One of them happened to have been a Democrat. One of them happened to have been a Republican. That wasn't the point. The point is they had a real vision for the country. So when JFK said, why don't you think about what you could do for the country for a change instead of the other way around? And then he said, it's not too much to dream, and we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. The end of the decade. I mean, where did he come up with that? And unfortunately, as we know, he didn't live to see it, but in 1969, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Where are leaders like that? Where are leaders like Martin Luther King? Does anybody think, by the way, I don't care what color you are or what your politics are, does anyone in their right mind think that Martin Luther King would be happy about what's going on in this country right now? That in response to every incident, people want to burn down their own town. Now, how does that make any sense? Boy, honey, dinner was really lousy tonight. I think I'll burn the house down. I mean, how does that make any sense? And how does that solve any problem? Or how does that get us closer to who we really are? And, Reagan was a guy who could do that. I mean, he was a true leader. And the country, in times of crisis, we've shown our ability to come together, whether it's, God forbid, a war or the attacks on 9/11. Heck, when 9/11 occurred, how many people hated George W. Bush? Half the country, right? Half. I mean, it was the most hotly contested presidential election in history. I mean, it went to the Supreme Court, right? Gore v. Bush. Right. And he was barely in office. This thing happens, and guess what? His approval ratings went over the roof. Everyone was holding hands. We were all in this together. I just have to ask you, Cameron, is it going to take a natural disaster of some sort for us to get ourselves together and be Americans again? I hope not.
I would hope not.
We're lost already.
Speaking along those lines, Jeffrey, you talk about some precedents that were maybe before the time of social media. Do you think that social media and the way the media and the press are today keeps some of those kind of leaders from even considering a run?
I couldn't have said it better. I totally agree with that comment. I totally agree with that statement. It's so true. Who the heck would want to get involved when you've got guys like Dorsey and Zuckerberg who are controlling the narrative along with NBC and CBS and CNN and MSNBC, and they control the narrative where people like Lester Holt, who at one time I thought was, at least he was a gentleman, comes out and says, and I know you heard this last week, we don't need to tell the other side of the story when we know which side is right. I mean, you think Thomas Jefferson would be happy about that? You think John Adams would think that's a good thing? So he says, I'm going to make up my mind who I think is right, and that's the side of the story I'm going to report. And guess which side that is? Of course, the liberal socialist give it all away side of the story.
How do you really feel about it, Jeffrey? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry I get worked up about this. But you know what really got my dander up was I got up this morning and I saw the story that there are members of Congress, including that nitwit Jerry Nadler from New York, who are actually putting together a bill to increase the size of the Supreme Court from 9 justices to 13. I mean, even Biden has said court packing is not a good idea. Nancy Pelosi, whom I detest, said she can't imagine bringing this to the floor of the Congress. But I mean, that's who's in office right now. They're going to pack the Supreme Court because they don't like the decisions that are being made. So it really, I'm a little charged up, so forgive me for the excitement, but I really do feel that as Americans, we have to stop listening to these people. We have to realize that we're being bamboozled by the mainstream media, and we have to take a good look at who we are as people. We have to do something nice for our neighbors. We have to stop all this hatred. We have to, stop lighting fires and beating policemen over the head with bottles. Yeah, there are some bad policemen, but what's the percentage? I mean, how many terrible people are there in law enforcement? And yet people now, you know this, they're resigning like crazy. Who would want to be a cop? Like you said, who would want to be a politician? Who would want to be a cop nowadays?
Now, Jeffrey, along those same lines with the younger generation that has grown up with social media and they kind of understand all the inner workings of that, do you think there's a next generation of leader that it can possibly handle what all that social media is as well?
Cameron, I don't know, because I look at them, I look at these young people, I talk to them, I go out of my way to do that, and I listen to them, and it's staggering. They all believe in socialism. I shouldn't say all, but many believe in socialism, but can't define it. You ask them, here's a simple question for you. This is not a trick question. Point to any country in the history of the world, of the entire world, where socialism worked. Impossible, because it never did. The Soviet Union gave it up on its own because they realized it didn't work. Venezuela went broke. Cuba's been poor for 50 years as a result of having a socialist economic system. But they don't know that. All they know is this: someone is telling them, guess what? You're not going to have to pay your student loans back. Joe moron over there who drives a truck for a living to put food on the table for his family and work 60 hours a week, we're going to tax him and he's going to pay for your college education. And what did you study in college, Missy? Oh, I said anthropology, social work. Oh, gee. And that's going to be a big contribution to society, right? Oh, terrific. This is going to be great. And the poor guy over here who's working his butt off to provide for himself and his family, he's going to pay for your college education. That's the mentality. So out of that generation, are there any young people who are going to see through it and say this can't work? I hope so. There's that one young guy. What the heck is his name? Ben something. Is it Ben Shapiro? Is that the guy?
There you go.
He appears on TV sometimes. He's young and he's really smart. I watch some of these things on TV and on these various podcasts and things like you do on radio, and you hear young people come and they say, no, I get it. I get that this is all a fraud. I just hope there are enough of them and that they stay the course and that those leaders do come out of this. But it's going to be tough. As you say, social media is killing it. It's just killing it.
That's right. Now, the book again, Fool's Errand. Jeffrey, I want to make sure and let folks know if they want to find more information, not only about that one, but the whole serial of the whole rest of your catalog as well. Where's the best place to keep up with that?
Thank you. We got to plug this, or my publisher's going to be mad. But it's Fool's Errand. Jeffrey Stevens is with a PH. So if you look for me online, it's jeffreystevens.com. That's my website, and you can read about all the books. I say support your local bookstores because they got hammered during the pandemic, and they could sure use your business. Or if you can't get to a local bookstore, Amazon has it. It's the hardcover's on sale now. It's also available on Kindle. And Fool's Errand by Jeffrey Stevens, my personal guarantee, you will love the book, I promise.
There you go. Well, Jeffrey, it has been great to visit book life, a little politics and all that, and we made it out unscathed, I believe.
Well, thank you, and thank you for putting up with me, because I know I got a little carried away, but these things do get me worked up, and we need to get ourselves together as all of us, fellow Americans, whatever your politics, whatever your religion, whatever your race, we got to bring this country back together.
Thanks for joining us on this 60-second episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, a question, or anything else you'd like to know, you can find me on the contact page at gqwithcam.com. Be sure and follow me on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at GQWithCam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, we've got lots of merch available over at the shop, gqwithcam.com/shop. If you have a special guest idea, email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Thanks again to Brandon Allen for coming up with our theme music. We're going to let him play us out. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday.